Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future homebuyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of homeownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. Notify Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License Lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 2011280L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with RJ. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio. We got a busy week in college football, especially in the SEC, and we have a big program trying to find a new head coach. But before we get to that, we got to get to the baseball. We got to get to the defending World Series champs going up 2-0 on the Brewers with a huge start from Yamamoto last night. You don't see this often. You don't see an ace ever go 9 innings, but he pitched a complete game. Dodgers won 5-1. Had a great start from Blake Snell on Monday night too, where the Dodgers won 2-1. And looking at the series right now, Justin, the Dodgers look like they're in complete command of this series. And the big question is, what do they need to do to put the series away? What do the Dodgers got to do to put the series away? And I'm going to say, continue to get great starting pitching. The last three, have you ever heard of a team that's let a starter pitch 6 innings or more 3 straight times nowadays? Have you ever heard of a team doing that? It's been a long time since that's happened. It's been a long time since that's happened. So, yeah, it was Tyler Glasnow in Game 4 against the Phillies, and you had Snell in Game 1, went 8 innings against the Brewers, and then last night you had Yamamoto pitch a complete game. So right now the Dodgers are up 2-0 on the Brewers. And to me, 3 things. Continue to get great starting pitching, which they have. Continue to get great starting pitching. I mentioned their last 3 starts. Get Ohtani going. You get that RBI single last night, but start to get Ohtani going. He's only hitting, 147 in the postseason. So get Ohtani going. And their bullpen has got to do the job. That's the one weakness of the team. The one weakness is the bullpen. And they did do the job. It got scary for them in the 9th inning on Monday night, but they did do the job Monday night. It's tough because they really don't have that consistent closers between Sasaki and Trinan. But to me, those are the 3 things the Dodgers got to do. And I think if they do all those, they're going to return to the World Series. Justin, what are your 3 things the Dodgers got to do to return to the World Series?
My 3 thing, number 1 for me is the starting pitching got to continue to be elite. Yamamoto was great last night. Blake Snell had a really nice start and through 21 innings in the postseason. He's got a ERA under 1 right now. The lineups, hasn't totally gotten going, but man, when that lineup gets hot, I know Ohtani gets base hit last night. Kike Hernandez, guy hits like 220 during the regular season, but comes up with big hits in the postseason every time. When the bats get woken up, they're a scary team. And 3rd for me is continue. I know Sasaki wasn't great on Monday night as a closer, but let him continue to be the closer because that's kind of the best shots they got. I know Blake trying to get the job done. He'd come in and finish the thing off, but he hasn't been great. Tanner Scott, like the rest of the bullpen hasn't. It's been shaky. So continue to have Sasaki closing because I think Dave Roberts done a good job of that.
He has, and yeah, I think you keep Sasaki as a closer. And I know the Dodgers got a huge payroll. I know they got a ton of talent. But you got to give Dave Roberts credit. You got to give Dave Roberts credit because in an analytics world, we're all listening to, so their managers are listening to the front office. They're relying on analytics. Dave Roberts, there's a reason Dave Roberts has won 2 championships. A lot of people want to talk about the Dodgers and spending the money and everything. There's a reason Dave Roberts has won 2 championships and has been to 2 other. There's a reason Dave Roberts has been to 4 World Series in the last 8 years, and he's on his way to go into his 5th in the last 9 years. He has a feel for the game. He kept Blake Snell. Blake Snell was pitching great, and he kept him in for 8 innings on Monday night. And then last night, instead of going to his bullpen, even though Yamamoto threw 111 pitches, I mean, there was a team that lost Game 5 that took the best pitcher in baseball out after he threw less than 100 pitches. Dave Roberts had the feel for the game. Yamamoto threw 111 pitches last night, but he kept him in that game. Dave Roberts is clearly the best manager going forward, and that's why the Dodgers are the favorite going forward, because they have the best manager going forward.
Yeah, Dave Roberts, using Sasaki that way, that's probably him. I wonder front office too, and Sasaki kind of, all agreeing on that. Dave Roberts, he has got a pretty good feel for the game, and it helps when you got all those superstars. And, Pat Murphy's done a good job on the other side with the team this year, with all the pitching injuries that they, you're seeing they're trying to piece together their staff right now. But I think Dave Roberts is pretty good. I think the way he's kind of handled some things. I think he's good. There's some things about Dave Roberts I don't totally like, but I think so far this postseason he's been pretty good.
He's a 2-time World Series champion, and he's been to 2 other World
Series.
Series.
It is the Dodgers.
I get it's the Dodgers, but
about Boone and the Yankees.
Listen,
Boone can't get it done.
Listen. When was the last time before he got there? When was the last time the Dodgers got to the World Series?
98? Yeah, 98, right?
88. He's done a phenomenal.
Yeah. What am I saying? Yeah, that's what.
Yeah, he's done a phenomenal job there. There's no denying it. I think he's one of the best or the best manager in baseball. He's done a phenomenal job. He's a 2-time world champ. And he's proven it. These 2 games, he's proven it because he's left his starters in the game. He's got a feel for the game. Not relying on analytics. He was relying on he's having a feel for the game, which more managers need to have.
Yeah, they do. I think Pat Murphy's one that he's very old school.
You're right about that.
Yeah, Murphy, look, he's better than Boone. I take Dave Roberts over Aaron Boone. So I'm not that down to Roberts, but
absolutely.
Yeah, you absolutely would.
And I'm more of a Boone guy than you are.
Yeah, you are. I think Boone's in the bottom 10 as managers right now. So that's where I stand. But so I think Dave Roberts done a pretty good job. Letting this pitcher stay in there. Because their bullpen's just been so bad too, where your starters might give you a little bit more in the bullpen because he's got to kind of try to piece that together if he ever gets to that point in this postseason. But the way he started been pitching, and look, like Blake Snell made 11 starts. They only need him for the postseason. Like they can only have him, just be ready in October. Like they had 9 pitchers going into the year, so starters that they could use. So it's a nice job of piecing together. And the organization did a good job of just having those guys be ready because a lot of those guys missed time this year.
Exactly. Blake Snell missed a third of the season. Now you wonder why the Dodgers were playing in the wild card round. Blake Snell pitched a third of the season, and he's been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal in the postseason so far. Now moving on to the Brewers side of this, what do the Brewers got to do to get back into this series? And number one, they've got to start. Outside of Cheerio, who hit the home run the first inning last night, the lineup has got to hit. The lineup has got to hit for the Brewers. They got to start hitting. They have not. They hit against the Cubs. They especially early in the series against the Cubs. They haven't hit. They really haven't hit. So the lineup is got to start to hit. Number 2, they got to get to the Dodgers bullpen. How do you beat the Dodgers? Get to their bullpen. The Phillies showed you in Game 3 of that series in the division series how you beat the Dodgers. You get their starters out of the game and you get to their bullpen. That's how you beat them. How you beat them is getting to their bullpen. That's how you beat that. And lastly, the bullpen's got to be better. Peralta left that game at 2-1, ended up being 5-1. The bullpen has got to be better. Those are my 3 keys for the Brewers to get to their first series since Harvey's Wallbangers in 1982.
Yeah, for me, for the Brewers, they got to start playing some small ball. They led the major league this year in infield hits. They got to find a way just to get some traffic on the bases this postseason, in this series because they have a ton of guys that have speed. They can make you, they got guys that can steal bases on the team. So they can. So when they get guys on the base path and traffic, they could kind of be a problem. They got to get something going because they really only in Game 1 they had the 9th inning there, but other than that, they really haven't been able to do much. Number 2, the pitching staff's got to limit the home run balls for LA and just their hard contact. I know LA's Dodgers got 3 so far home runs this series, but with that lineup, you got to try to just keep them off balance. Try to keep them from, because they got so many guys in the lineup that could hit home runs. And thirdly, for me, it looks like Otana's going to go. I think in this series, it's a huge loss having Woodruff because you saw him against the Phillies, that tough lefty that Chris Sanchez and Jesus Luzardo they kind of, because the Dodgers do have a ton of good lefty hitters. I think they need Quintana to be really good, especially on those lefties that all do have some power and can give you some trouble. So that's why I think they need Quintana, but it's a huge loss from not having Woodruff in the series.
And you mentioned Woodruff, and I agree. It's a huge loss, huge loss. Because now they got to pitch Quintana and then a bullpen game in Game 4. So they really don't have the pitching advantage in a lot of these games. They really don't, because Glasnow's pitching in Game 3, so they really don't have the pitching advantage. So definitely a huge loss not having Woodruff in this series for the Brewers. Now, for the series prediction, Dodgers up 2-0. The big question really is this series going to end up going back to Milwaukee? Is it going to end up going back to Milwaukee? I don't think it is. I think the Dodgers win this one in 5, and I think they get to their second World Series in a row, and I think they get to their 5th World Series in 9 years.
Yep, I'm with you here. I think the Brewers steal one of the next 2 here, and this thing won't go back to Milwaukee. I think the Dodgers end up singing 5 games. I just think there's just too much talent, and been a great year for the Brewers. I would love to see them get there, but they're just going up against a different type of beast in the Dodgers right now.
They definitely are. Dodgers look like they're on their way to getting to the World Series. Look like they're on their way to defending their World Series title next week. Now we move on to the American League, and the Mariners, after winning that dramatic 15-inning game in the ALDS, beating the Tigers in 5 games, they are now up on the Blue Jays 2-0, and a big reason for that has been, Jorge Polanco has been phenomenal. He had that game-winning hit against the Tigers. He has 2 RBI singles against the Blue Jays in Game 1, and then he gets the big 3-run home run to put the Mariners up 6-3 in Game 2. So Jorge Polanco has been phenomenal, and for me, for this team to get to their first World Series in team history, this would be the first time the Mariners win this series. They're 2 wins away from getting to their first World Series in team history. They came into existence in 1977. So first World Series it would be in team history for them. And they got to continue to get timely hitting. You had Raleigh's home run in Game 1. You had Polanco's 2 singles. And they had the big 3-run homer from Polanco in Game 2. So continue the timely hitting. Get good starts from Kirby and Castillo. Get good starts from them. If they get good starts from them, I think they're going to be fine. And Wu, there's a good chance Wu will be back for Game 5 too, which is definitely going to help them. And their bullpen's got to continue to be great, because that was kind of the weakness of the Mariners outside of Muñoz. That was kind of the weakness of the Mariners, going into this postseason. Their bullpen has been outstanding. They've given up 1 earned run the last 3 games. So it kind of, you saw in Game 4 against the Tigers, it struggled. But in the last 3 games, their bullpen has been phenomenal. The bullpen has just got to continue to be phenomenal. Justin, what do the Mariners got to do to get to their first World Series?
For me, the pitching staff continue to throw strikes, because the Blue Jays are a very disciplined team. You kind of saw that against the Yankees, where they don't chase a ton. And if you can get ahead in counts and put them in defensive, that's kind of been huge this series. So for me, number 1 for them, the pitching staff continues to throw strikes. Number 2 is the long ball continues to kind of fuel them. Like you mentioned, Jorge Polanco's had a great postseason, kind of like similar to Eddie Rosario in 2022 with the Braves, like not the guy in the middle of that lineup, but somebody kind of me towards the end, not one of the big 6 you think of, but he's been having a great postseason. And number 3 for me as well is the bullpen. Yeah, Muñoz has been good, but like outside of that, there's not a ton of guys that you really trust, but they're going to need those guys to continue to keep the Blue Jays bat silent in the series.
Yeah, they definitely are. They definitely are. And talking about the Blue Jays bats being silent, they were red hot against the Yankees. They scored a bunch of runs against the Yankees, but they have been silent in the first 2 games of the ALCS, only scoring 4 runs. And that's because Vlad Guerrero 0 for 7 in this series so far. So Vlad Guerrero is 0 for 7. And that leads me to my first point about the Blue Jays is what they got to do to get back in the series. They got to start hitting. They've scored 4 runs in 2 games. They got to start hitting. Vlad is 0 for 7. They are definitely looking like they missed Bichette in this series more than they did against the Yankees. So the Blue Jays got to start hitting. The Blue Jays, they have to start hitting. They definitely got to start hitting. And then number 2, starting pitching has got to be good. Starting Bieber has got to be a lot better. Bieber has got to be better than he was in Game 3 in the Bronx when he only went, he couldn't even make it out of the 3rd inning. That's why the Blue Jays had to play Game 4 against the Yankees. So Bieber has got to be better. And then the bullpen's got to be better, because the bullpen has not been. They couldn't keep the score at 1-1 in Game 1, and then they fell apart again in Game 2 too. So the bullpen's got to be better. Those are my 3 things for the Blue Jays to get to their first series in over 30, first World Series in over 30 years.
Yeah, for me, I'm with you. The bats have gone silent. They scored 34 runs in the series against the Yankees, and only 4 so far in this series. So yeah, the bats got to wake up, and that kind of leads to my second point is guys. The other guys got to step up, Bo Bichette's absence. I know, like Ernie Clement's had a really good postseason. He's at 476. I know Nathan Luke's at the top's been pretty good as well. But they need some of the others down there to kind of help fill the void there without Bo Bichette. Because you're right. It really seems like they're missing him this series. And number 3 for me is they got to get more from the pitching staff. You mentioned the first 2 games, they didn't get a ton from them. Savage. I can't believe the Yankees could not touch that guy. Couldn't even get out of the first inning.
Oh,
that just shows the Yankees had no plan of attack.
You're right. No plan at all. At all. It's the same story in this postseason. Pretty much most postseasons with Boone, it's the same. Outside of last year's postseason, it's been the same story with Boone. Yep. Pretty much the same story with Boone.
Yep, absolutely, it was. So it just it sinks, but see if they can get over the top next year. But so like it's the pitching staff. The pitching staff's got to be better. They got to get a couple good starts because like that bullpen too. The series had not been great either. The Mariners have got to them, so their whole pitching staff they got to be better because the Mariners bats right now they're swinging it pretty well, and with the way with the way Toronto's swinging it, they got to they got to keep them in check.
Oh yeah. They got to be. They got to. Yep. They have to, and it's going to be hard because Bieber didn't pitch well in Game 3, and Scherzer is making his first start of the postseason, and he's got experience, but he's definitely past his prime, so it's going to be tough for the Mariners. Now, looking at the series prediction, just like we said about the Brewers and the Dodgers, and we don't think that series is going to LA. Is there really any chance for this series? Do you think the series is going back to Toronto? I don't think so. I think the Mariners clinch their first World Series appearance at home, and I think they do it on I think they do it Friday night. I think they get to the World Series. I think they beat the Blue Jays in 5 games. I think they beat the Blue Jays in 5 games. Maybe the Blue Jays steal either tonight or tomorrow, but I think they win this one in 5. I think the Mariners win it in 5. They're the better team, and really they've been since the middle of the season, since the All-Star break, one of the best teams in baseball. So I'm not surprised that there's a good chance it's going to be Mariners Dodgers in the World Series. That was my pick right after the Mariners swept the Astros the last week in late September. That was my pick for the World Series. So I think it's going to be Mariners Dodgers in the World Series. That's my pick, and I think the Mariners take care of the Blue Jays in 5 games.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Mariners take care of business here in 5 games. I just think the way the Mariners are playing right now, they're going to be tough to beat, and now Toronto's got to try to steal 4 out of 5. I just think that's too much of a it's just too much of a hill to climb right now, the way they're playing and the way, you mentioned Max Scherzer's going, which, he's out of his prime. And it's, with the season on the line, it's going to be tough to count on him, especially go deep in this game tonight. So I'm with you. I think, the Mariners right now are just they're playing really good baseball. And I don't think the Blue Jays will be able to overcome an 0-2 deficit. And, they look, great on them for being the Yankees, but really seems to them like they've been, a little bit too much celebration after that because, felt like they congrats to them. Felt like they won the World Series, and I think the Yankees this year they've not looked at the same team at all.
You're sure right about that. Vladdy was acting like he won. Vladdy and David Ortiz on the Fox post game. So Vladdy was definitely acting like he won the World Series after they beat the Yankees. The manager was Schneider saying start spreading the news. Yeah, they definitely celebrated. I think a little bit too hard for winning congratulations for beating the Yankees. But they celebrated. They celebrated. I think a little bit too hard for winning a division series, and it's looked like it's showing up in the ALCS because this team is in big trouble right now, down 0-2, and they need a big start from Shane Bieber tonight in Seattle. So both series, Blue Jays and Brewers definitely in trouble in the LCS. But we'll see what ends up happening in those series going forward. But we have a major program. We have a major program that has an opening for their head coach position. But before we talk about that, we are going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEG's Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEX Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEX Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
Alrighty, so we sat here last week talking about after Penn State got upset by UCLA, should Penn State move on from James Franklin? We both said yes. Then Penn State loses to Northwestern this week, another game where they lost, where they were a 3-touchdown favorite. And then they did it. On Sunday, they did it. They moved on from James Franklin. Pretty crazy seeing what's happened the last couple weeks with Penn State. I was there at the whiteout, less than a month ago, and James Franklin is on the game. He's on the game day. He's on game day. He's talking about the program, and they're 3-0, and they're one play away from beating Oregon. They don't make that play. They end up losing to Oregon in double overtime. Then they turn around and lose to UCLA, give them their first win of the season, and then they shockingly lose to Northwestern at home. And Northwestern gets their first win of the season. And then the university reacts to it by firing James Franklin. And I think it's the right move. I think he did a good job. He did a good job at Penn State. He took Penn State was in a tough spot when he got there. I mean, he won a Big Ten championship game in 2016. Pretty much averaged 10 wins a season. Great recruiter. When you could recruit Saquon Barkley and Micah Parsons, Abdul Carter, you're a great recruiter. But the biggest issue with him, and it was obvious, he could not beat the good teams. He could not beat the good teams. That was the biggest issue with James Franklin. And he just couldn't beat the good teams. I mean, he won 4 games against top 10 opponents, and 2 of them were SMU and Boise State. You could argue were not top 10 teams last year in the playoff. And then the other 2 were in that 2016 season when they won the Big Ten, when they beat Ohio State and they beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. So it was a good run for James Franklin, but I feel like a change had to be, as a Penn State fan, I feel like a change had to be made, and I'm happy a change is going to be made. And I'll first, before we bring up our choices for who the replacement should be, I'll get your thoughts on the firing of James Franklin, Justin.
Yeah, I guess I can't say I was too surprised. I figured they'd wait till after the season, but look, good on Penn State to rip the Band-Aid off. Give yourself a month and a half, or almost about 2 months for the carousel really start to get going here. And really evaluate your options here. So, kudos to Penn State. Kudos to paying that buyout. And I know there's a clause in there that if he's got to try to find another job, so like they may not have to pay it in full. But so it was time. I'm with you. It was time to get rid of him. The way because like Northwestern played well on Saturday and they still went in there and beat you. It just felt like this team kind of, I don't want to say quit, but it just felt like the way the Oregon game happened, it kind of just ripped kind of the souls out of them or whatever, and they haven't been able to respond. So look, the big thing about James Franklin the last couple of years is not win the big one. And now he's losing the games that he never did. So it felt like it was time to move on. We'll get to the choices, but man, the Penn State, I know you're a Penn State fan. I don't know how many of these candidates are really gonna really get you excited about right now, because I get with Franklin, but there's not that Nick Saban or Urban Meyer's coming to town.
Yeah, and I think they did this, and the reason I did think they did is they're going to try to get Kurt Signetti, which I don't think they're getting. I don't think they're getting Kurt Signetti.
Yeah, I don't. After he beat Oregon, I don't think he is now.
I don't think he's leaving. I don't think he's leaving. But they want to get Kurt Signetti, so but I don't think he's leaving. But my choice is for head coach, and I think number one is the obvious one. He turned around. He turned around Temple. He turned around Baylor. Yes, he failed in the NFL. He's trying to turn around Nebraska now. He's got a good quarterback in Nebraska with Dylan Raiola, and that's Matt Rule, and he was a Penn State alum. And he spoke really highly of Penn State when they asked him the question. So that is definitely my number one choice. He's had a lot of success in college. I know he hasn't, quote unquote, won the big game as well, but he hasn't taken over a Penn State. He coached at a Baylor. He coached at a Temple. And Nebraska, yes, that used to be a great program when Tom Osborne was there, but it's been years since Nebraska's been a great program in college football. And they were a bad program, and he took that over too. So my number one choice would be Matt Rule. He played there. There's a good chance if he goes there, he could bring Raiola over to be the quarterback next year. So Matt Rule would be my number one choice. My number one choice would be Matt Rule. Number two, and this might surprise you because he was the head coach at Penn State, and that's Bill O'Brien. I think he's having trouble recruiting at BC. He did a really good job at Penn State. Bill O'Brien did a really good job at Penn State. Was in an impossible situation there with players being like you know how it is now where players could transfer whenever. That was the case at Penn State, but only Penn State when he was there. They could transfer. I mean, rightfully so for what Penn State allowed. They deserve that to happen for what Paterno allowed. They deserve for that to happen. I mean, they deserve for that to happen to that program for players to transfer whenever they wanted because of what Paterno allowed to go on there, which we're not going to get all into all that. But so when O'Brien was there, players could transfer whenever they had sanctions, and he still had 2 winning seasons there. He had an 8-4 year, and he went 7-5. Had 2 winning seasons in the Big Ten at Penn State. And I think at BC, it's hard to get recruits. It's hard to get recruits at BC. I don't think their football program doesn't have the resources. What are you going to say?
They don't spend any. There's barely any NIL money. They don't care about hockey. So yeah, it's an impossible job.
It's an impossible job for him. I think going back here, I think it does make sense for him. I think going back here does make sense for him. Had a lot of success in 2012 and 2013, and I think we were arguing really, especially in Franklin's first 2 years, that O'Brien was a better coach. Even when Franklin wasn't winning the big game, we said, maybe if O'Brien's here, he could have won some of these big games. So O'Brien is number 2. The number 3 is Manny Diaz. He was the defensive coordinator for Penn State in 2022 and 2023. What are you going to say?
There's some in-game stuff that I think he's like Franklin, where I don't love him. Yeah. But I get it. I get where you're going with it.
That's why he's number 3. He was the defensive coordinator there. Now, are they going to hire someone who coached with Franklin? It's not likely they will, but Manny Diaz is my number 3 because he has head coaching experience. He was at Penn State, so Manny Diaz is my number 3. So my 3 are Matt Rule, Bill O'Brien, and Manny Diaz. Justin, who are your 3 candidates?
My 3, I'm going to throw out 3 different ones. Even though the Rule one too, don't forget the AD now, Pat Kraft. Yeah, he was the AD at Temple with Matt Rule, so they have that connection too. Yeah. So I think Matt Rule is probably the number 1. I'm going to throw 3 names out there that I want to see as you're a Penn State fan, what you think of them. Number 1, Eli Durkowitz at Missouri. You got always at the top of the SEC, towards the top. Very good in the NIL world. Missouri is one of the first teams to really get that going. He's been good in the portal. Somebody that I think he's a pretty good X and O's coach. I think he's done a really good job in Missouri. So that's my number 1 candidate for Penn State. My second one is Matt Campbell, Iowa State. I know
that's a good one.
That Iowa State program was nothing, and he's won a couple 10-win seasons. I don't think they've had that ever. He's got to bring somebody over with him to recruit because Iowa State's going out and getting 3-star kids. But in the wide receivers, Penn State really hasn't been able to develop that the last couple of years. He's developed some wide receivers. He's an Ohio guy, so I think he's been waiting for the perfect kind of school to go to leave Iowa State. I think Penn State would be the one. Number 3, this one's an outside the box one. About Fran Brown, the Syracuse coach. He's a Jersey guy.
Yeah.
Was assistant at Georgia. The thing is, though, he's rough around the edges. He's not like most Penn State coaches.
That's not good.
After last year, after a loss, they were. He told reporters they don't shower after losses. They let the.
Did he make them run sprints after they beat UConn?
Yeah. He'll drop the random F-bomb on a Wednesday press conference. He's gonna do stuff it's an but I think he's an unbelievable recruiter. I think he gets the most out of his teams. He's a Jersey guy, so those are kind of my three. Eli Dirkowitz, Matt Campbell, and Fran Brown.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I like the first two. I don't know about Fran Brown, but I like the first two. I like Dirkowitz, and I definitely like Matt Campbell. I like the first two. So we'll see what happens here. This is a coveted job. They're going to be talking about it. I mean, I doubt Terry Smith is going to he's got to run the table to have any chance at this job, because I know he played at Penn State. He's a Penn State alum, but he did coach under Franklin. I don't think they're gonna keep another guy who was the associate coach under James Franklin, even if he does run the table.
I don't think so too. Yeah, I don't think they will too. I think it's a good just to have an intern, because like I think he's gonna have that team motivated. I think he's gonna have that team fired up. I think that's the right guy to go with the intern. But I'm with you. I don't think he's gonna get the job unless they somehow run the table. Which they beat Ohio State, you really have to consider it. But
they would have to beat Ohio State and Indiana to run the table.
Too.
Because they play those teams back to back. But speaking of Terry Smith, his first game as Penn State interim head coach is Saturday night, and that game will be in Iowa. Penn State and Iowa. Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz has always this is a while ago, but Kirk Ferentz has given Penn State trouble, not for a while, but he's given Penn State trouble. But I think he wins this year. I think Iowa wins because Penn State, they don't have Drew Aller. I think Iowa wins this one. I got Iowa in a close one because I think they're able to run the football, and their quarterback will make less mistakes. I got Iowa here 20-17 over Penn State.
Yeah, I got the Hawkeyes 220-13. Grunkmeyer, former 4-star, going on the road, going to Iowa for your first test against that defense. I know it's not the vintage Iowa defense, but it's still solid. They're coming off a thumping of 38-0 win to Wisconsin. I think they play well. I think Gradnowski does enough here. I think it's an ugly football, ugly Big Ten game, and I think Iowa wins a low score in 20-13.
All right, we got a big week in the SEC, and we'll start with the top 10 matchup. You got number 5 Ole Miss against number 9 UGA. Lane Kiffin beat Georgia at home last year. Lane Kiffin beat him at home, so we got Ole Miss against Georgia. And I think in this game, I think it's a close, low-scoring game, but this is the game where I think they're going to miss Jackson Dart here. They're going to miss Jackson Dart because I don't think Trinidad Chambers is going to come into Athens and win. I don't think Chambers is going to come in and win the game. I'm going to go Georgia here. I'm going to go Georgia 24-17. But Justin, can Lane Kiffin beat the Bulldogs for the second year in a row?
Oh, if he does, Georgia fans are going to be Kirby's having a rough couple of days down there. But I got the Bulldogs in this one, 27-23. I don't love Gunnar Stockton. I think, he's too erratic at times. The running game isn't as good as we're used to seeing it. But in this one, I think Ole Miss is I don't think their O-line is great in pass protection. And I do think Georgia's pass rush hasn't been great this year, but I do think they get after Chambers a bit. I do think, he makes a turnover too in this one. I think Stockton protects the football well enough. And I think just going on the road, I worry about this Ole Miss team a little bit going on the road. And I think Ole Miss misses a couple guys that they had up front last year. And I do think that's different in this one. I'm going to take Georgia here at home.
So do you think Georgia's not as dominant? Do you think they could still be a playoff team this year? They already have a loss. Do you think they still could be a playoff? Do you think they're still going to be a playoff team this year?
I think they can be, because the rest of the schedule, they should beat Florida at home. At neutral site. They still got Mississippi State on there. Texas, Arts look better. I still got to see a bit more from them. And like Georgia Tech, because Georgia Tech gave them a run for the money, but they're not playing that at Bobby Dodd Stadium. They're playing at Mercedes-Benz. So it's going to be a Georgia home game. Yeah. So I think that's a mistake there by Georgia Tech. So I could see Georgia winning that game as well. So I do think they're going to sneak in. It's Georgia. Like I think 9-3, they'll somehow sneak in. So I think Georgia's pretty. I shouldn't say. I think Georgia's in pretty good shape here to get there, because I think they'll win at least 2 out of these 3.
Yeah, I think so. I think they end up making the playoffs. I think they do. It's tough for me to see a Kirby Smart team not make the playoffs, because to me, he's the best coach in college football still with the 2 national titles. So it's hard for me to say.
I'm going to take Ryan Day.
So you're going to go Ryan Day. I can't go
or
Ryan
Kirk Cignetti. Kirk Cignetti's
done a really good job. He's done a really good job. But yeah, I don't think I can't see a Ryan Day team. I mean a Kirby Smart team not making the playoffs. But it is the 3rd Saturday in October, and we know what that means. Tennessee and Alabama play each other, and they will play each other Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. And I think Alabama wins this by 2 scores. I really like the way that Simpson's playing. I really like the way he's playing. I think he plays really well again. And I got Bama 31-20 here over Tennessee. But Justin, can Tennessee pull the upset and hand Bama their second loss?
No, I don't think so. I got Bama as well, 38-24. Yeah, you mentioned Ty Sims has played a lot better since that Florida State game. He's more on time. If that game against Florida State, he was kind of late a couple times, a couple of those throws there, and I think Bama's gonna play well against the Tennessee defense, which has not played well at all this for the most part, especially in these SEC games. Jay Miller is in percussion protocol. I don't know if he's gonna go because he's made a huge difference for this running game, but I still don't think Tennessee is going to make too many stops in this one. And Joey Aguilar, I don't want to disrespect Mississippi State. There was a ton of Vols fans when they played down there in Starkville, but now you're going to Tuscaloosa this week on a Saturday night. I think it would be a much different atmosphere, so I could see him making a mistake or two. I like Bama here to win this thing 38-24.
All righty, we will stay in the SEC with LSU and Vandy. Got Diego Pavia against LSU's defense. And I think LSU's defense comes through here. I think they do. I think it's a close, competitive game, and I think Nussmeier makes less mistakes than Pavia because I think LSU's got the better defense. I'm going LSU here, 24-21. But Justin, can Pavia keep Vandy's playoff hopes alive?
I think so. I got the Commodores 24-20. Vandy has not been favored in an SEC game. In 51 games here, so they've been an underdog for 51 straight games here. So if this thing continues to say it's a 2.5 point favorite. And then the last time they were favored over LSU was 1948. So it's been a while. Vandy's not used to being in this spot, but I don't think Garrett Musnauer is healthy. That offensive line can't do much for him. The running back room is banged up. I like Garrett Nussmeier hasn't played great, and then Aaron Anderson is kind of slot guy, which has been important to him because he's got no offensive line. So everything, he's throwing a lot to the slot guy because throwing underneath to him. So. I just think LSU's very banged up, and I think Vandy's gonna have a chip on the shoulder. I think as long as Diego Pavia does not turn the football over, I do think Vandy wins this one. I'm gonna take them here at home.
Alrighty, we got USC heading to Notre Dame. I remember what Notre Dame did to them 2 years ago when Caleb Williams went to South Bend. Notre Dame beat them. I think they do the same thing again. I think Jeremiah Love is the reason. Jeremiah Love has another big game on the ground. I think Maeva plays pretty well, but I think I just don't think – I think I'm going to go with the team with the better defense and the better head coach. I'm going with Marcus Freeman here to win another one. I got Notre Dame 31-24 over USC. But, Justin, can Jaden Maeva lead USC to an upset win and end Notre Dame's season?
Yeah, I got the Irish as well, 20-21 in this one. Possibly going to be rainy and windy, which I do not think is going to help.
That's not good. That's not good.
Yeah, not good. I was surprised how well they looked in the trenches. USC against Michigan. Now that might be Michigan, and Sherrone Moore. They all made fun of Ron Day for being born on third base, but you may have to have that conversation with Sherrone Moore at this point. But I really like the way CJ Carr's playing. I think Price and Love have a pretty good game on the ground. And I think that Notre Dame defense has figured some things out. I think Maeva does turn the football over too in this one. But if USC's defense at front it plays as well as it did last week, I really think they could go into South Bend and win this game. And this could be the last time these two play in South Bend for quite a while. They're not scheduled to play after next year. And Lincoln Riley's kind of said that this thing's, that they're not interested right now in scheduling because it's going to be easier to make the playoffs without scheduling Notre Dame every year. So, and Notre Dame starting in 2027, scheduled a 12-year deal with Clemson. So I think Notre Dame's going to replace USC with Clemson. So could be the last time we see these two in South Bend for quite a while. So one of the best rivalries going to, take this one all in.
Wow. So USC's not going to play Notre Dame anymore? But are they going to play them out in California?
Next year they will, and then after that, there's not a game scheduled. So unfortunately, this could be it. So one of the best rivalries in the sport. So it'd be a shame if this rivalry goes away.
Yeah, we'll see. So yeah, we got to enjoy it while it still happens. Should be a good game on Saturday night in South Bend. Now I added this game to the rundown because I didn't realize, I didn't at the last minute. But it is a rematch of the national title game 2 years ago. So we'll hit on it. You got Washington 5-1 heading out to face Michigan. I think Michigan wins this. Washington playing a game in the Eastern time zone at noon. I think they're going to struggle here. I got Michigan close. I know Washington beat them last year, but I got Michigan close. I got Michigan 23-17 over Washington.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Huskies here. I really am out kind of right now on Michigan.
Wow. You're out on Sherrone Moore.
27. Big Poggi took over when he was the interim. This team was better when they were playing under him. I think he's got 1 year. I think they're not firing out this year. I think next year they get rid of him.
Wow.
If things continue to go where they're going. Washington's the only 501 team in the country, I believe, that's not ranked. If they were in the SEC, they'd probably be in the top 10 right now.
Oh, wow. You like Washington.
Oh, I really love Jeff Fish. I love
like
the quarterback, Damon Williams. Yeah. Damon Williams, that guy's I think he's got a really bright future. I think he puts on a show this weekend.
Wow.
I know they got blown out against Ohio State, but I think that's just Ohio State just being so much better than everybody else right now in college football. They held Ohio State 24 points. I really like Damon Williams. I thought Bryce Underwood took a couple steps back last week. I know I just up front, I just wasn't impressed. I know I worry about the early kick in this one, Washington, but I think they're the better team. I think Jed Fish is the better coach in this one. I think Washington goes into the big house and gets a win.
All righty, we got a matchup in the SEC between Oklahoma and South Carolina. We got a matchup in the SEC between those two teams, and I think there's going to be an upset here. I think South Carolina's going to pull the upset because I think John Mateer was rushed back last week. I think he was rushed back, and he's going to struggle again. And I'm going to go with South Carolina here, 20-13 over Oklahoma. But Justin, does Brent Venables' squad bounce back this week?
I think they do. If this is a night game, I'd probably be with you, but I think it's a little bit easier to go South Carolina for a 12 o'clock kick and than a 7. I got the Sooners win a low scoring 24-17 game. I'm with you. I think they rushed Mateer back. I thought he threw the ball well, but when I don't remember, I said when we talked about Mateer, when you strictly make him a pocket passer, he's not as good. Like the legs, his element with his running abilities, what makes him so tough to stop and so unique. So I'm going to think he's a little bit healthier this week. I'm going to say they're going to use him in the ground game a bit more here. And I trust Oklahoma's defense just a little bit more than I trust South Carolina's. I think their offense for the Gamecocks is getting a little bit better, but I still don't trust them enough. I'm going to take the Sooners on the road 24-17.
Already SEC matchup in Fayetteville as Texas A&M takes on Arkansas. I think Marcel Reed is a big game because I don't like Arkansas's defense. I think Arkansas scores, in the 20s, but I think Texas A&M wins this one by double digits. I got Texas A&M 30-20 over Arkansas, but Justin, could Bobby Petrino pull off the upset and hand A&M their first loss?
I think they are I think the Aggies are an upset alert this week. I do think the Aggies get out of there with a win, 38-34. Because the last time we saw A&M go on the road, it was against Notre Dame, and we saw that defense really get shredded. Now, I think their defense got a lot better, and I think in the trenches on both the offensive and defensive line, I think A&M's only behind Miami. I think they're really, really improved up front. I think Marcel Reed plays really good. I think he has another solid game. I think Concepcion and Mario Craver have 2 huge games. And I think Bobby Petrino is going to scheme things up. Their defense stinks, but I think they're going to play hard under them. They scored a ton last week against Tennessee. I wouldn't be shocked if Arkansas gets them here at home, but I think the Aggies hold on, win this football game 38-34.
Already ACC matchup in Durham as Duke takes on Georgia Tech, and I think this game is close and competitive between 2 Penn State hopefuls to be head coach, Manny Diaz and Brett Key. But I'm going to go with Haynes King here to win the game. I got Georgia Tech 27-24. Justin, could Duke hand Georgia Tech their first loss?
I'm going to take the Yellow Jackets this one 31-27. I think it's a good test for Georgia Tech because Duke's pass rush is really good, while in the rush defense is solid as well. Now, Duke's issue is in the secondary, and I think Georgia Tech to be able to expose that. But if Duke can kind of slow down that running game, keep Haynes King in the pocket, make him strictly a pocket passer, I think Duke has a good chance in this football game. Manny Diaz is a good defensive-minded head coach, so I think that's possible in this one. And I do think Duke's going to be able to score on Georgia Tech's offense here, but I'm going to take the better team here just by, very close, 31-27, but wouldn't be shocked Duke gets the win here.
Big 12 matchup in Tempe as Texas Tech takes on Arizona State, and I think Texas Tech wins this one by double digits over Kenny Dillingham's squad. I got him Texas Tech 31-17, but can Dillingham pull the upset and hand Texas Tech their first loss?
I don't think so. I got the Red Raiders 31-13. Sam Levitt didn't go last week. It was like Thursday. The rumors it's an ankle or foot injury. He was practicing with the ones yesterday. But if it is at a leg or if it's some type of foot ankle injury, if he doesn't have his mobility and he sits back there in that pocket with that offensive line that's not played well at all this year, I think Texas Tech's going to tee off on him. And I think it's going to be a long night for Sam Levitt in that offense. Brandon Warren got banged up last week for Texas Tech. I don't know if he's going to go or not, but I do trust the back of Will Hammond in this one to just make enough plays. I think they do a solid job in the ground game. I think Texas Tech, I think this is a really good football team. They've spent their money well, and I think Texas Tech is a legit team, and I think I don't think they have a hiccup here in Tempe.
Alrighty, Big Ten matchup in Rutgers as Oregon tries to bounce back from their loss last week to face Rutgers, and I think they win. They dominate here. I got them winning 38-31-13 over Rutgers. And Justin, I assume you got the same.
Yeah, I got the Ducks 41-20. I don't think this is a vintage Greg Schiano defensive team. I think Oregon bounces back. I think Dan Lanny's got this team going, fired up. Yeah, I'm not too worried about the cross country trip. I know that can be an issue, but I think Dante Moore plays pretty well in this one. I think Dante Moore has a pretty good game. Ethan Kaliakmanis, the Rutgers quarterbacks, actually played pretty well this year, but I think it's Oregon. I do think he's have a tougher time. I think he makes a couple turnovers in this one. I think Oregon cruises a victory.
Alrighty, we got an SEC matchup in Lexington on Saturday night as Texas tries to build off their win over Oklahoma, and I think they do. I think Arch Manning is another good game. I think Wisner is another good game, and I think their defense plays well. I got Texas here 27-10 over Kentucky, but Justin, can Mark Stoops pull off the big upset and ruin Texas' season?
I don't think so. I got the Longhorns as well here, 24-13. I just don't trust the Kentucky offense at all still. And I think Kentucky's defense will keep them in it. I did think Arch Manning played better last week. It looks like he was a little bit more comfortable. I think his offensive line played better as well, so that's a huge help. But I think Texas defense is a difference this one. I think they pretty much slow down Kentucky. I don't think Kentucky's had much success offensively here, and I think Arch Manning makes enough plays here. Kind of just has to manage his football game. I think he does, and I think Texas wins by double digits.
Alrighty, we got a matchup in the SEC between Missouri and Auburn on Saturday night. I think it's a close, competitive game. I'm going to take the team with the better quarterback, and that's Bill Pavula. I got Missouri bouncing back this week, beating Auburn 23-20. But Justin, can Auburn finally win a game? They almost did last week. They had some issues with the referees last week against Georgia. Can they finally win a game in the SEC?
I'm going to say they off the mat this week and do it. I'm going to say again 23-20. Because I don't know how they overturned that fumble there in the end zone, because that's 17-0. Auburn wins that football game. They got that. Remember that Oklahoma game? Oklahoma had that guy that looked like he was subbed out, and he's the wide receiver. It looked like he subbed out, and Auburn thought he was leaving the field or whatever. Nobody guarded him for a touchdown, and I guess that's illegal to do. And so Auburn's getting kind of snake bitten by the officials a little bit here. But I don't love Auburn, but I think they get off the mat. I think Jackson Arnold plays well enough, because I think Auburn's really talented, but it's a quarterback that's really holding them back right now, unfortunately for him. They've not spent the money right at that position. I think Jackson Arnold makes just enough plays in this one. I think Missouri's solid. But Auburn's got to win one of these games. One of these games, the luck's got to go on their side. I think it's this week, and I think Hugh Freeze too needs this game like blood. So I think he finds a way to steal this one. If not, man, I especially if they lose another close one, this team might be on the quit watch.
A battle of Utah in Provo as Utah takes on BYU, and I think it's a close, competitive game. I got the Cougars staying undefeated. I got BYU winning this one 24-20, but can Kyle Whittingham hand BYU their first loss?
Yeah, I'm going with Utah on this one, 20-23, the Holy War, one of the best rivalries in the country. I think it's a very underrated uniform matchup as well. I'm gonna take Devin Dampier. I think I trust him a little bit more than I do Barrett Brockmeyer in this one. First time since 2009, these two teams scoring off in the top 25. BYU hasn't beat anybody. They credit to them. They're finding ways. They found ways to win last week at Arizona. A couple hour rain delay or lightning delay there, but I like Dampier. I think he's healthy now. I think that offensive line, slows down BYU's pass rush in this one. I think he makes just a couple more plays than Barrett Brockmeyer in this one. I'm going to take the Utes here on the road and one of the more hostile rivals in the country.
All right, you got Nebraska and Minnesota facing off. We'll go to the Friday night games, wrap up with the Friday games. Got Nebraska and Minnesota playing on Friday, and I think Dylan Raiola wins this one. I got Matt Rule beating PJ's Fleck squad. I got Nebraska 27-20, but can PJ Fleck hand Nebraska their second loss?
No, I got the Cornhuskers 23-17. Actually, Matt Rule said yesterday. It was yesterday or today. Nebraska hasn't won back-to-back games on the road since 2006, but it was like I was kind of surprised.
Wow,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Even
in the Bo Pelini years, where they were pretty good at times.
Yeah, I was surprised when he said that. So, I think they get it done this week. Darius Taylor, the Gophers running back, he's been banged up all year. I'm not sure if he's going to go this week or not. And Minnesota's run game has not gotten going. During their few conference games this year, they're only averaging 44 yards on the ground. Nebraska's rush defense isn't great, but I think they hold up enough in this one. I think Dylan Raiola makes enough plays. They're not really taking many shots on the field with him. It's a lot of dink and dunk stuff. So I just don't know if they don't trust him enough, or because I think the offensive line's decent enough, but I think he makes enough plays this week, and I do think they go up to Minnesota and win a close, low-scoring Big Ten battle.
All right, we'll wrap up with two matchups in the ACC on Friday. Matchup in the ACC between Louisville and Miami. And I think Miami's proven that they're one of the best teams in the country. I think they do that Friday night. I think Beck plays well. I think Bain plays well. I got Miami 27-13 over Louisville.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I got the Canes 31-16. Louisville's offensive line is not great, and Miller Moss, their starting quarterback, does not handle pressure very well. So I think this could be a fun night for Miami to get after them. I like Jeff Brom as a coach. I think he can really scheme some things up. He usually has a pretty good offensive game plan, especially coming off a bye here. But I think this Miami defense is absolutely legit. These two usually play shootout games. Last year was 52-45. But I think Carson Beck makes enough plays. I think Rubin has a pretty good game against this offensive line that's going to have problems slowing him down. I got Miami here by 2 scores.
All right, we'll wrap up talking about Bill Belichick and UNC. And it looks like he's in trouble at UNC because his team has not competed. They take on Cal, and I think it's the same old story for Belichick. I got Cal here 30-17. And really the big question is if Belichick loses this, could this be the last game he coached at UNC?
Yeah, it's gone ugly. There was a story a couple weeks ago in The Athletic, and it was a couple of G5 coaches were quoted saying that North Carolina was competing for players that they were trying to get in the Group of 5 level. North Carolina was competing with them in the portal, trying to outbid Group of 5 team. So My thing is, I think Bill thought he could come in the college football, whoever and just scheme up, just out scheme his opponent.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work in college. That works in the NFL because the talent level is not as big as it isn't as large as it is in college football. If they get blown out again, I could see it. But the donors have so much riding on him. This was a donor hire. The AD did not want Bill Belichick. The AD wanted John Summerall or somebody. He wanted the Tulane head coach. So I think it's up to the donors, and it's a 5-year, $50 million contract. North Carolina probably has the money to eat that contract. But if they get blown out, I wouldn't be surprised. I like the Cal starting quarterback, JKS. But, man, their offense too is ranked 131 out of 136 in yards per game. Like, it's abysmal. But, again, they have Group of 5 talent at the ACC level. So that's the issue. I wouldn't be shocked this is it. But I think they're going to try to ride things out just because of those donors. I don't think those donors want to see this thing through, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I think he's going to get fired at the end of the year. I think he lasts till the end of the year, but I think he gets fired at the end of the season. So I
wouldn't be shocked.
I think
the parents don't like Lombardi. I guess Lombardi's not very very, very family friendly to him, I guess. So, but I guess they like Bill though. It's
really?
Lombardi. I guess so maybe Lombardi's the scapegoat, even though I don't know. I don't think Bill would do that to him.
No, because they're so close. They're really close friends.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're really close. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see. But it's a mess. I didn't think it would go this bad this quickly.
It definitely has for Bill Belichick. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with RJ. But we'll be back next week talking about Week 8 of the NFL season. We'll have our NBA season preview. We'll preview the World Series, and we'll talk about Week 9 of the college football season. So have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group. And here at CMG, we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men. And great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Bird, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.